But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
Muted. A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
That's right, Brett Walsh. Welcome back, boys and girls, to the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet. This is the 9x9. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. It's episode 96. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto, north of the border. Everett, we're coming up on two milestones. We're coming up on episode 100 pretty soon. And
yes and no.
And the 2-year anniversary of the show. Like, yeah, the episode number isn't super authentic because we've done a bunch of like the World Championship in VNL and a bunch of episodes that haven't counted towards the number. But it was November of 2021 that we began this very program. So we'll have to,
it was.
We'll roll those two things into one little celebration here in a couple weeks. But it's been a great run that we've been on, and we're not stopping here. This is the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet.
Hell no.
And
ain't no stopping.
No way.
Don't even bring that up.
No way.
Don't even. We're doing the best numbers of all time. We got a great community going. You guys are live in the chat. This is we're going to the moon with this.
That's right.
Sorry, system. We don't mean to steal your slogan there. But it's just Rob's wearing the shirt. It just came. It's what came to my head.
Let's do it. So as you've seen the episode title, we've got some hard hitting questions to ask, like things like, is MONZA a wagon and is PORRO the GOAT? And we will get to those questions because there's a lot to talk about. But first,
are Lube frauds?
Well, we'll get to all those questions. But first, we have some national team coaching news. As it was very early after Davide Mazzanti was finally ushered out the door of the Italian women's national team, the first name that was rumored to take his place as the head coach of the Italian women's national team was Julio Velasco. And Coach Velasco, Coach Velasco was like, hell no, they haven't talked to me. I have nothing to do with this. I don't know what any of you are talking about. And sure enough, here we are, as announced by FIPOV, that Julio Velasco, is the new head coach of the Italian women's national team starting January 1st of 2024. However, many of you may also be aware that he is currently the head coach of the Busto Arsizio women's club team in the Lega Volley Femminile. And for some reason, in the last several years, or kind of always, the Italian Federation has had this rule in place where you're not allowed to do both. You cannot coach a domestic club team and also coach the national team. So there's been some discussions being had amongst the various governing bodies and important decision-making groups in Italian volleyball about what Julio Velasco is going to be able to do. But what we know for sure is that he will coach the Italian women starting January 1st of 2024.
So far, the Lega Volley Femminile has voted in favor of having him do both.
Right.
So right now we're just waiting on the Italian Federation. I mean, Velasco, it was obvious that he was going to be a candidate at the beginning, obviously from all of the stuff, but it makes perfect sense. He's been an Italian citizen since '92, even though he's Argentinian. He's worked with the men's national team. He's worked with the women's national team. He revitalized or built the Iranian program. Hell, went back to Argentina, helped them win a Pan Am Games here in Toronto back in 2016, beat my Canadians in semifinal, made me sad. But Velasco is the perfect. I think he's so good at managing players and managing emotions and managing dynamics. And that's what you need right now with this Italian team. Like, there's so much turmoil after the Mazzanti days because he's such a stooge and he's just such an ogre by the way he went about it. With like it was so uncouth with how he treated Agonu and everything like that. So you need someone who is widely respected, and he is widely respected not only around the volleyball world but within Italy as well as being one of the best, right? So he's going to come in and I hope really going to settle some things down because everyone knows like this Italian team has gold medal potential at Paris 2024.
Yes, they do.
This is an Italian team that could win a gold medal, which would be massive, right? But they need someone at the helm, and I think Julio Velasco is the guy, and it just makes things way crazier for me heading into 2024 on the women's side. That just like I was very like after this season, a lot of question marks on Italy, but bringing Velasco in, they're right back in there for me. Just right in.
This answers a lot of the questions, and I agree. I think it's the perfect hire. I don't know why he was so resistant to the idea, at least into the media when the discussions were first circling. But this is a great hire, and now I'm curious to see what the federation and the league and Booster Orsizio, the club, and what all those entities do about this, because they've got to get on the same page. Will Velasco be allowed to continue coaching Booster Orsizio when the new year rolls around? I don't understand. I see no reason why he shouldn't be allowed to do that. The league has already voted to allow him to do this, like you said. Now it is just up to the Italian Federation, and they've kind of been the ones, at least from my perspective, they've been in the ones with their heels dug in, not allowing this double duty to happen for all this time. I personally have never even understood the advantage of having that rule in place. But Everett, you brought up something before the show that you think that even if they do bend this rule, it might just be a temporary solution. Why though? Yeah. What would be the point?
Well, I think ultimately, like, this is a rule that we've seen in place for Italian volleyball for a long time, and I don't think it's necessarily a rule. And this is just my own conjecture, but I don't think it's necessarily a rule that they want to get away from. I think this is something that they really want to hold. So, but everyone knows, everyone knows that Mazzanti needed out. Everyone knows that you needed to have someone come in. Velasco was approached by this after he was under contract with Busto. Right. So for me, you have to allow it at least for this 1 year. But if the Italian Federation wants to keep that in play, I could see him just being almost like a rental situation. The dude's 71 years old. He doesn't want to embark into another Nations League. He doesn't want to do a European Championships. He doesn't want to fly to China and do Olympic qualifiers. No, he wants to do one tournament. So my thinking is that this would be a temporary situation. Just for 2024, he comes in, coaches the national team, helps them win a gold medal at the Olympics, and then in my view, that he would probably step away and retire, and they'd bring someone else in to start a new quad 2025 through 2028 for Paris. It seems so much, especially at 70 years old, to be doing all of this, and it's perfect sense right now because he can manage those emotions and those people. But looking forward, you don't necessarily think that he's the long-term solution.
So I definitely agree with that as part of as what Julio Velasco's job description is. It is for this year, the calendar year 2024, manage the personalities, manage the pieces, manage the psyche of that team to peak at the Olympics. And I agree with you. I don't think that he is going to be asked then in 2025 to build a program for an entire 4-year quad. I don't see him wanting to do that. I don't even see the federation wanting him to be the guy to do that. But I also don't see the benefit in getting rid of this long-standing rule that they have about the no double duty or whatever just for this 1 year. Clearly Velasco is the right guy, and they needed to make a hire now, considering when they fired Mazzanti. So they have to do something to get a capable guy to take that team to the Olympics. But I definitely don't see them undoing this rule and then redoing it 12 months from now. So I guess we'll see. No. And I also am not sure if or how this is going to affect the men's side. If the Italian Federation bends on this and they allow Velasco to do both, so that choice by the Italian Federation, I would have to think would carry over to both the men and the women. And then if the Superlega decides to allow it, then you could see Ferdinando De Giorgi coaching a club team next year, hypothetically.
But didn't we see that back in 2021? Wasn't that the case where De Giorgi was coming into the Italian men's national team and was coaching with Lube? I can't remember what exactly.
I think Blangini has been there for a very long time. I think it's been a minute since De Giorgi has coached club, but I don't know that for sure. So
let me pull this up while we finish talking about this, because Rob, this is kind of the theme right now, because there's another conversation happening right this moment about another coach. Let me just pull up the Lube volley box here. Yeah, De Giorgi started as the coach in 2021. Remember, they fired him in the middle of the playoffs back in 2021. They fired him literally in the middle of the semifinals of the finals. Yeah, De Giorgi started was the coach through 2021. There's on Volleybox, there's 2 head coaches for so yeah, I remember something like that happening back in 2021. But Rob, we've been following this for a long time now, so it's hard when things happen exactly.
It's a very confusing federational situation for Italy, but moral of the story, Velasco is a very good hire for the Italian women. I think Everett and I are absolutely on the same page about that. And like we said, his job description: manage the personalities, manage the pieces for an Olympic year. You know who else is being tasked to do that, Everett?
Bernardinho!
As first hypothesized on this very show, the instant Renan Del Zotto retired from the team at the end of Olympic qualifiers, we thought immediately that Bernardo Rezende would return to the Brazilian men's national team to coach the team for just 1 year. Sure enough, welcome back, Bernardinho. He is back as the head man for the Brazilian men to do the exact same job that Velasco is being called on to do for the Italian women. Manage the Brazilian team, manage all those egos, manage all those old guys, get the most out of a group for 1 season. And then when it comes to 2025 and the next quad, Brazil will figure it out when they get there. But absolute no-brainer here of a choice for a guy to lead you to 1 Olympics. It's a guy who already has an Olympic gold in the last 10 years, for God's sakes. This is a no-brainer to convince Bernardinho to come back, and that's exactly what we thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar situation to Italy, but it is also much different. Like, Italy is a team with so much talent, and they have young talent coming up. Like, there is a future when you look at that Italian team. I don't know what kind of future this Brazilian team has. This is a short-term band-aid, 100%.
Yep.
This is hey, we need to figure out something now while we have Bruno and we have some of these guys for their last breath. But that next breath for Brazil might be in a tough spot. So, and like Brazil is Brazil. Like, we've seen it time and time again. How many times over the past couple of years have we doubted them and they've been able to come through? With Bernardinho, it does make them more lethal. No doubt about it. One of the things I've been seeing though is all of the questions like which players are going to come back. Like, which players are going to put themselves available to be available for this team with Bernardinho come back? Like, do we see Douglas coming back? Is that a possibility? Like, there's been these questions. I was yesterday when I was on Instagram, like, looking at this story and stuff like that. That's what the Brazilian fans are wanting to know. So I think there's definitely some more question marks around this Brazilian team. But when you have a guy like Bernardinho, who's not only knows this team but has built this team, I think Brazilian fans and the federation feel much better.
Oh, and as they should, yeah. And when it comes to 2025. There will be a huge number of questions, and those will not be Bernardinho's problem because he will not be in charge of that next quad. This is a 3-month window, or more like a 6 or 7 month window from the new year to the end of the Olympic Games in August or whatever that's going to be. That's it. That is all that Bernardinho is worried about at this point. Then he can go back into his retirement, and then somebody else will have to deal with the future of Brazil. But for now, to get the most out of this Brazilian team next summer, by far the only choice. The only choice.
The only choice. And I mean, if I'm Brazilian, I'm excited for this, but then the last time we saw Bernardinho coaching at the international level was not great. Let's go back to France.
That does not count. That does not count. That French Eurovolley in 2021 does not count. They had just won Olympic gold. Their legendary coach had just retired. They were all partying the entire time. They lost to the Czech Republic in the round of like 16 or whatever. That tournament means nothing. That tournament means absolutely nothing. Bernardinho didn't do anything that tournament. He didn't have to. It wasn't. Don't even bring that one up. We're talking about Bernardinho, who's an Olympic gold medal winning coach on Brazil. Gets to coach his son one last time. It's a nice story. It's the right decision.
It's the Glenn Hoag move.
It is, and of course. So my question is, who on earth is going to be Brazil's 12-man Olympic roster? And I have no idea the answer to that.
If there's one team on the men's side that I'm excited to see in VNL, is going to be Brazil, because they have a lot to figure out.
They do,
right? As on the men's side, every other team, and let's be honest, like other than like Serbia and Cuba, like the Olympics is already set.
Yep.
Right. Like the Olympics is already set. So everyone else is gearing up for the Olympics with the same squad, the same guys, barring injuries, anything. Brazil, a lot of questions up there.
Yeah.
So, man, it's going to be exciting, but that's probably going to be the last breath of international volleyball news that we have until 2024, I would say.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
I don't really see anything. I don't really see anything coming up, but who knows?
But it is nice to be able to look forward to it. So that's cool.
I do want to address one question in the chat. Who Jesus Miranda says Italy has too many talented coaches. Why Velasco? Velasco is technically Italian. Like he gained Italian citizenship in
Italian for like 30 years.
Bro, he's been Italian for as long as I've been alive. Okay, like I'm 31 years old. I turned 32 soon. So he's been there a while. He's coached their team. He knows a lot. But like also, all of the best Italian coaches are elsewhere. Guidetti, right. Santorelli. The list really list really goes on and on and on. Di Giorgi, like go to Velasco. I think it's the best thing.
Yeah, like what I mean, all you needed to know is that of all the Italian coaches that there are, the women have been dealing with Davide Mazzanti for the past few years.
Like, yeah, that's like, that's like eating craft dinner when you could be having. So, all right, let's move on here from national team season. Let's stay in Italy, though. Let's head over to the men's Superlega. Rob throwing up the standings there, and I think, Rob, let's talk about that team right on the top of the standings. And everyone's going to be like, oh, Everett just wants to talk about Canadians. Rob was the one who put Monza first in our show notes. They also beat Verona last Wednesday. They got 2 wins last week. They're supposed to play Verona next week in week 6, but it got moved around, I'm assuming, for some CEV stuff. But, Rob, for Monza with a massive 3-0 donging. Or sorry, 3-1 win over Verona on Wednesday. A lot to talk about here. No Lawani. Francesco Sani, the American, is apparently Italian, but this Monza team was rolling. First set was all them. Verona comes back, and then it was just easy for Monza.
Dude, Monza's sick. Monza's really good. Monza they really have no weaknesses. They have excellent wings and they have options. They have very good and very underrated middles. I really have liked Gabriele Di Martino ever since he played at Toronto. He's very underrated. Like that guy, Galassi he's a national team starter. He's good at everything except serving the ball over the net. Certainly can't do that. And then you have Cachopa, who is at the very, very least a top half setter in the Superlega, probably more like top 3 or 4. So Monza's awesome. And what was interesting about this match, we'll talk about Verona in a minute and the absolute like roulette wheel that is their starting lineup and some of those complications, but we did not see Ibrahim Lawani at all. He is on the stat sheet, but I mean, watching this game last Wednesday, I didn't see him. I didn't see him on the bench. I didn't see him dressed. I didn't see him warming up at all. And when Arthur Schwartz struggled a little bit, because he went 8 for 24 with 3 errors, like not his best game.
Not a great game by
without Lawani, who, I mean, we talked about it when he came into the Superlega last year, second half of the year, he led the league in points per set. So for some reason he's not available right now, and I don't know why.
I've only seen him one time this season, and it was after a game. He was in uniform and he got up, but I can't remember. I want to say it was on Wednesday, but I can't be sure, so I'm not going to say that. But yeah, so his absence is noted.
His absence is noted because who came in for Arthur Schwartz at opposite in this match and helped and played great to help them win? None other than EFL, Eric Lepke himself. Comes in at opposite and goes 10 for 17 with 2 blocks and no errors.
He was gross.
I was sick.
EFL was gross.
And like ripping like legit D balls. Like he didn't play like a 3 outside hybrid thing. No, he played straight up opposite.
He was playing straight up opposite.
It was awesome.
This kid used to play setter in like club and in high school. So like we all know that EFL can do it all, but it just kind of like it shows that he's like ready and waiting to go. Like he's that first guy off the bench. I would really like to see Monza play with that 3-hitter outside system right now. I know it's tough because Ran Takahashi has been playing outstanding. Stephen Marr has been their absolute workhorse. I mean, I think a number of people saw it in the Discord about how like, oh, look, in system we go to Ran, out of system any junk balls we're just going to go to Stephen Marr, and that's kind of the way that's been. But this Moan team is really on a tear right now. Like 4-1. Their only loss comes against Perugia. They've beat Modena. They've beat Verona. They've beat Monza. Like this is a good team, and this is in my opinion kind of a top 4 team.
Yeah, they look awesome. This was one of the best matches I've seen Ran Takahashi play. 16 for 34, 21 points total, and 4 blocks, including several one-on-ones on Amin that were just enormous. He looked great. Marr had a really good start to this season. He's been a little bit quieter since. And Everett, I will inform you that the Discord is very angry at your take about Marr only getting garbage balls, because that's actually not what's happening here. Ran's just out. No, it's not. Ran's just out playing him, but Marr is a workhorse, and he's also getting targeted the most in reception. I mean, look at this. Marr passed 41 balls, Ran passed 7.
Yeah.
So there's a clear difference in what's happening there as well. But I mean, Monza's sick. Monza is great. They have lots of options, and I think the only thing that can stop them at this point is injury. And obviously I'm not wishing for that. I think they're really good. And like people are talking about in the chat, to answer this backup opposite question, they just signed this kid, Nik Mujanovic, the backup from Slovenia, who's very young. He was playing for Kalsi Kamnik and is coming over. He's a 2004. So he's 19, and I guess from our people in the Discord, they say they like him, and they say he's got a lot of potential. So he'll definitely be an emergency backup, but that just tells me more. It's something's going on with Lawani that we don't know about.
It has to be injury related. Like it has to be, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. It has to be.
So yeah, that's Nik Mujanovic.
So let's talk about Verona here a little bit, because
we have to talk about Verona.
There's a lot to talk about. Still no Namori Keita, although he's listed on the roster here, so I assume that means he dressed and was in the building. That's a good sign. Another different starting lineup permutation for Verona. I mean, they're going to go through so many this year. We should honestly keep track of them. We saw Nikola Jovovic start at setter, which is a huge red flag for me, because if you're going to sacrifice a foreigner spot on your setter with all the foreigner issues you already have in the starting lineup, then how bad is Luca Spirito? Well, really, we can start there.
I think we need to start talk right away about Francesco Sani for a few reasons. First and foremost, I need to start. That was an outstanding performance from him, right? Especially since I've only ever seen Sani. Did he play left side for UCI?
Nope.
No, he was an opposite for UCI.
He's been an opposite as far as I've ever seen him.
He was an opposite when I saw him back up Jay Canes with the USA B team last summer at the Pan Am Cup. Like, I know he's like put up good numbers for the USA team on the opposite. I had no idea he could pass the ball. I had no idea he was as good as that. Like, the first half of this has to be praising Francesco Sani, because that was a fantastic performance. 16 for 31. He got 2 blocks out there. They were serving him. He got he was passing really well. He did get ace 3 times, still 42% positive, 31% perfect. Like, he was out there balling. But tell me why, Rob St. Clair, he is considered Italian. He's played for the USA. He's a USA citizen. Sure, Sani might be an Italian last name. He might have, his grandmother's left toe that was Italian. Like what is going on here? Like, this is supposed to be some of the most stringent foreign rules in the world. And Francesco Sani, who suits up for Team USA in the summertime, is allowed to play for Italy. Now, there may be rules because he didn't suit up for the senior team, right? I believe he was on the 30-man roster for Team USA for VNL.
Yep.
But he never suited up for the senior team. But in my knowledge, there needs to be like a 2-year, maybe not a 2-year thing, but he needs to be able to like revoke his American citizenship to be naturalized as an Italian, right? Like, what is going on here? An Italian in the chat needs to let us know, because I was so confused.
I was confused too. As soon as I turned this match on last Wednesday, I looked at the lineup. I'm like, okay, what is Jovovic doing out there? If Jovovic is out there, then that means there must be another Italian in the starting lineup. But I looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute, this lineup cannot be compliant with the foreigner limit unless by some miracle Francesco Sani is considered Italian, and sure enough, he is. I mean, so somebody in the chat says he got Italian. Sani has an Italian passport, even though he plays for Team USA. And I mean, his name is Francesco Sani, for God's sakes. Obviously, he has a very significant Italian heritage. From what I was hearing, his mother is Italian, like fully Italian.
Okay.
But this doesn't seem right to me. I don't understand how this works, because like you said, Everett, he plays for Team USA, like currently. And there's been nothing about him renouncing that ability or
his sport nationality on Volleyball and on the Verona website is American.
But on the Lega Volley website, it's Italian. So I really don't understand this. I mean, of course, there's an advantage if you're going to play in the Superlega to being Italian, because you don't count against the limit. You have way more opportunities, and that's exactly what we're seeing here for Sani. The only reason he's allowed to play here, and probably the only reason he is playing over, in this case, Rok Mozic for some reason, Stujchev, is because he counts as Italian. So that's a big advantage. But like this like little dual citizenship loophole, I don't know the details. I'm very confused. I would like to know the answers, because this doesn't really make sense to my understanding of how this works. Now, I'm not trying to take opportunities away from the kid. I'm really happy for Francesco Sani. He played great. I'm stoked for him, especially if he's still able to play for the U.S. Like that's fantastic. I want him. I want as many reps for him as possible. I'm just confused.
I think, from what I understand, I think if you do have like an official passport from that country, you can play for them. Right, because you're considered kind of like a citizen. Like I've known players in the past who had like French citizenship and went and played in France, but like got paid like a local player. So that would make sense if you have a passport. That would make sense that you could be naturalized. But it is a stretch. And if I was one of the if this was F1, there would be inquiries about this right away, because every other team would be questioning it, because it's not like he came out and did nothing. No, he replaced Rok Mozic, which is another thing that needs to be talked about. How are you replacing the heart and soul, the best player of your team, your top scorer, for some no name who's never played this position before, and he's fresh out of the United States? Now, Sani did outstanding, and for me, that I couldn't believe I was watching the same player that I had seen only in warm-ups, because he never got a sniff of the court when I watched him in Gatineau. He was outstanding. I think
he was very good.
That was the one thing, is that he was the best player for Verona on this day, hands down.
Which I will say was I was very impressed as well. That was a pretty low bar, because Verona, this particular match, was not good. They were frustrating to watch. Amin made way too many errors. And for some reason, Donovan Javorona, who played okay but not great, started over Rok Mozic. Like, what are we doing here, Stoichev? What are we doing? How in any situation can you take Rok Mozic off the court for this team and not even start him? I do not understand that in any way at all. Also, how bad is Lucas eventually? How bad is Luka Spirito really if you have Nikola Jovovic setting over him?
I didn't think Jovovic did that bad of a job.
He did.
I thought he was pretty good.
But like the foreigner limit consequences are such that Spirito has to play.
So clearly not, because you have the American meatball, Francesco Sani out there, just going after people. So
this is a confusing one. This match was last Wednesday. They played it in advance, and that kind of led us into an entire full weekend of Superlega games. And I mean, we can talk about Verona's game really quickly while we're talking about them. They stomped on Catania on the road. I don't know what they were doing, losing a set. And of course, if you start your best player, Rok Mozic, he'll drop 30 points. 25 for 42 attacking, 4 blocks and an ace, and like sky high efficiency. Yeah, 548 efficiency. Yeah, what are you doing, Stooge Chef? Going to keep this guy on the bench? Get out of here. I have nothing else to say about this match. Oh, Alex Grozdanov was very good. Sani played again and was good. Like Catania's terrible. They're probably going to get relegated. Moses dropped 30 on them. Yeah, whatever. But Verona continues to be an absolute circus.
I'm still heavy on the Gianni to Verona train.
I'm with you.
I may be the only person who's with, like, you know, maybe you and I are the only people who are on that, but I think they need a change of coach. There's too much talent on this team to just be like, we don't need to pass or play defense. Let's just swing. Let's just hit the ball.
Just not how that works. All right, so that's enough about that match. Where do you want to go next for this weekend of Superliga games?
I mean, to be honest, this game was pretty chalk, or this weekend was pretty chalk. I really like watching Trento versus Piacenza on Saturday. I thought Piacenza was really good Trento was all right, or like Piacenza was good for about a set and a half, and then everything just kind of started going Trento's way. Other than that, the only big thing that I really want to talk about is Milano versus Civitano versus.
Oh
Louvain.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go right into that. There's a reason that Paulo Porro is on our thumbnail. I watched a bit of this game. I saw the result on Sunday. I messaged Rob and I was like, "Hey, we need to throw King Porro on this thumbnail because this is a winless team." Now, Rob, I'm going to take you back to last week. When I apologized to Lube Civitanova. I said I was wrong. You know, you started your season a little rocky. I'm not sure about your roster. You lost to Monza, but Monza's pretty good. But then you went toe-to-toe with Perugia in the Supercoppa finals, and it was a great matchup. You won your semifinal against, was it Piacenza that they played? Doesn't really matter. And then you beat Perugia last week. And then you turn around with this absolute stinker against Milano, and you go 0-3. But Milano was really good. Paulo Porro is the truth. There's just something. He just invigorates. He has that Tim Tebow effect. He invigorates the entire team with the Holy Spirit, and they're just ready to go.
So it was funny. Yesterday, there was a gigantic junior boys tournament in Chicago, like one of the early ones of the junior club season, and I was there, and I was talking to a bunch of my coach friends, and I was actually talking about Francesco Sani because I was talking to this coach from his old club team in Maryland about the fact that he's apparently Italian now. But another thing that we were talking about is the shift between tall setters who are good at everything except setting versus short setters who are only good at setting. And I brought up the fact that I just really like watching a slightly smaller setter with just a ton of personality and just a ton of confidence, just a little bit of that swagger. And Porro, man, I have completely turned a corner on Paulo Porro. I now really like watching the kid because even if his back setting location is not very good, I mean, he stuff blocked Ivan Zaitsev twice in that first set that were like huge on Milano making that comeback because they were down in that first set. They ended up winning it 25-21, which looks comfortable, but they were down by a good bit. They were down 21-19 and went on a 6-0 run. That's pretty crazy. So I love the way that Porro played. Obviously, a night and day difference for Milano after sucking with this Zonta kid the first couple weeks of the season. And then Porro comes in, and immediately they're back to being a competitive team. Now, we also have to give Ferry Regers a whole lot of credit. 13 for 20, 600 efficiency. Banger.
The right situation for Milano is very interesting. You have Peter Derlich, who's done it before. He's been there before. We saw him have a great season with Cisterna last year. But Ferry Regers was really good last year for Connect.
I think so.
Yeah, one of the Belgian teams, and then was one of the biggest surprises this summer at the Olympic qualifying tournament. I think it's a great move. I think he fits in with the rest of this highly skilled Milano roster. Like when you have like Kaczynski and Ishikawa and Melgarejo on that left side, you can rotate through them with Like this is a very, very good Milano roster. It just shows how bad Nicola Zonta is. Sorry, but like he was absolutely terrible. He was bad. This team was winning games with the Batapor as a middle last year. right? And with so many different issues, and they were able to figure that out. They weren't able to win with all of their guys and a backup setter, but there's a lot of good things happening with Milano, and now that they've got their guy back, I expected to see them go for a bit of a run. But on the other side, Lube looked terrible. DeCecco looked Detungus, old and uninspired. And Zaitsev is bad. It was very much like, I think we're going to see this from Lube. I know I put in our show notes are Lube frauds. I don't necessarily think they're frauds. I think this is a very good team that can turn up when they want, but this is also a team that can fall asleep when they
I don't think Lube are frauds. I think that this happens to them. They're an old team on average. DeCecco has had matches in the past where he just phones it in, and this was one of them. And the other thing for Lube, the one hinge pin of their team is how Ivan Zaitsev plays on the left side because of their issues with the foreigner limit. He has to be good, and this match he was pretty bad. Poor in reception, poor in attack, very bad serving. I don't know what's going on with his serving this year. That's another conversation. But he was so bad that he had to be benched for Marlon Yant, and in order to do that with the foreigners, you also have to bench Bartolomé Chinese, which is never a good thing. So when Zaitsev struggles and DeCecco phones it in, Lube is going to lose, and that's going to happen. That's okay. There's still a team that can go deep in the playoffs. But Lube is what? Let's go back to the standings. They're what, like 2-2 to start the year? Yeah, 2-2 with only 5 points. Like, other than like they have the win over Perugia was enormous, but record-wise, this is not that good of a start to the year for a team with Scudetto aspirations. So we'll keep an eye on how often Lube plays matches where they phone it in. But this was just a case, in my opinion, of Milano needed this more. Milano needed this match much more. They had their starting setter back. Don't ever think that having a correct setter doesn't make a difference in elite level volleyball, because it obviously does. You saw Agustin Loser play his first good game of the season because of it. You saw Regers be great. Now, I'm not sure if Regers is the answer day in and day out. I do think that Zierlich is the better player right now, but I'm also wondering if Zierlich is getting punished for having a couple bad games early in the year off a backup setter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe not punished, but maybe they're just trying a new look. They did go Farah Regers in the last match. So like, this isn't the first time that they've done it. I think it's just early in the season, and you need to figure some things out. Maybe there may be things that they're seeing in practice too. Who knows? Like, maybe over the past little bit, as Porro was getting better, Porro was running with the bench guys at practice, and him and Regers were lighting things up, and they decided to change. So I think it's just too early in the season to kind of figure this stuff out. But I do fully agree that having Derlich there is a great situation. You're not going to completely switch to Regers just on his own. He's too young, too inexperienced, too unproven. And Derlich, like, that he's going to be able to come in and do some good stuff. So I think we're going to see a little bit of both from these guys this year.
For sure. So good for Milano. They have their first win of the season. Porro is back. Porro is a good setter. We'll have to, maybe at the midway point of the year, we might have to do some position rankings as far as Superliga players go, because I'm curious to see how high up on the setter list Paulo Porro ends up getting. Let's talk about a couple of these other matches very quickly. Monza, in one of the great beatdowns we'll probably see all year, absolutely embarrassed Toronto in 1 hour and 7 minutes. This was never even close. I think Monza hit 500 efficiency as a team and had more aces than service errors, and Toronto is just bad. Toronto's bad.
We could be seeing a relegation team in Toronto right now. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now.
Toronto's not good.
They're not.
Toronto is not good. 1 ace to 10 service errors is horrible, and that 1 ace came from Jeff Jendrick. So all of their actual spin servers are not putting the ball in play. Bad offensive numbers, incredibly bad reception numbers. Monza was awesome. Those are two teams in completely different leagues, and this was a significant donging of the highest order, and we don't need to spend any more time on that match. Trento Piacenza, I wanted to talk about a little bit, because you're right. When Piacenza looks good, they look good, and they looked phenomenal in that third set. 25-16, they won that, and that was And that was after making their lineup changes because they didn't have Yuri Romano at all. It was all Fabrizio Gironi on the right side, who I believe in like a negative amount. But Yoanni Leal was horrible. He started and was really bad and hit 0% efficiency, and they brought in Francesco Recine in the third, and that actually helped. So they won that set comfortably and then ended up losing it. But
Chine was actually pretty good there for a little bit. I know Dave, was it Dave Rogers doing the call of that game? He was all about Recine, but he was pretty good. It's just they just don't have this consistency. I don't know. Piacenza it's just weird, but at the end of the day, like the consistency of Trento is really what shone through in this one.
Absolutely. Kamil Rukliski with a very good game, 15 for 27, only one error. That's above 50% efficiency. That's excellent. And then 10 aces to 16 serve errors for Trentino, 6 aces to 18 serve errors for Piacenza. That is a big difference.
Massive difference. And Leal, Nay is right. Leal was really bad in this one. Leal was really, really bad. That's why they had to bring Recine in, because Leal was just bad. Also, who was bad was our lefty friend. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Because they had to bring in Baroni to play on the right side.
Everett,
in this one.
Good listening comprehension skills. I already said that Yuri Romano didn't even play. He didn't even start.
Okay,
that they didn't have him.
I only tuned in the second set, so I just assumed that he was playing poorly.
Yeah, I guess he's a little banged up, but this is a consequence for Piacenza literally not having a second opposite on the roster, because Gironi is an outside hitter, and like
I thought he did pretty good though.
He was okay statistically. 10 for 23, 6 errors. Like that's certainly not great. I have no faith in the guy to be a Superlega opposite. Like that's
absolutely
it's not his job. It's not what he's brought in to do. So I don't really know what Piacenza's doing, but without Romano even in the lineup, they're probably not going to have a lot of success against a team that is as good as Trentino and is consistent. That's the thing.
No. The big thing for me was just how good Robert Landy's in this one.
God, he's awesome.
9 for 14, 4 blocks. Like there's so many times like he was the guy that really like spurned things on for this team too. And it's also tough too when Guizard is out there missing 5 serves. Same thing with Gironi. Just a lot of service errors, 18 service errors, as you said there, Rob. Just bad watch. Just bad to watch.
I wish that Simone was still playing for Lube with Tcheko.
That's just.
I personally would take a 1-for-1 switch. Give Chininiese to Piacenza so he can play with Brizard. Give Simone back to Lube so he can play with Tcheko. If there were one switch I could make in volleyball, I think that would be it.
My assumption is that like their contracts don't line up. Their contracts don't match up. I'm assuming, and I remember when he was moving there, Ronnie was kind of telling us that, like, I think Piacenza's paying him money.
Oh, well, 100%.
Money, yeah.
The only reason you leave Lube after winning a Scudetto is for the bag, and I respect that. But I the fan, want to watch Robert Landy and Tcheko some more. But
Robert Daddy Simone, I don't know how we've never thought about that. Kimmy Diaper, that's amazing. Robert Daddy Simone, 100%.
Yeah, that's a layup. Speaking of very good teams, we should talk about Perugia and Modena. This was a fun match. Everett, who looks really, really good.
Who's that?
That would be Wasim Bentara. Who told y'all that this man is really good? I did.
Once again, I have never said that he wasn't very good. I just didn't think he was the answer. And now I may be wrong on that. He looks very good.
He's the answer.
He looks very good, but he shouldn't have been the answer, right? That team last year was more than good enough to win. And you shouldn't need to go out and get another guy. But we'll see how he looks down the stretch. I think it will be interesting. Like Herrera barely getting any sniffs since Wasim Bentara is coming in. So we know how
18 points, 14 for 23 attacking, 522 efficiency, 3 blocks and an ace. I mean, come on. That in a 4-set match, that's a masterclass. That's so good.
Yeah. Oh, it is very good. I mean, hell, like Perugia hit 59% as a team. So did Modena, though. That actually kind of surprises me from watching that game. But
11 blocks to 4 is a big difference. And I thought that Ole Plotnitsky and Kamil Semeniu combined 22 for 35 attacking, 485 efficiency combined for the two of them. Like, that is a phenomenal output from the two outside hitters that are not named Wilfredo Leon.
Yeah, that's Perugia's good, man. Perugia's really good at volleyball.
Yes,
they've got the best players in the world. And let's be honest, Modena, not very good. They're not, like, in my book, they're not even like a top 6 team right now.
Well, I agree.
I would have Milana and Monza ahead of them, and like they're fighting with Verona right now, in my opinion.
So Modena, I don't understand what Modena is doing, because like people are talking about in the chat. Bentara physically completely dominated Osmani Juantorena, like, across the net from him, like stuffed him one-on-one several times. Was hitting straight over the top of him. I don't really know what Modena's doing, because they've been starting with Juantorena and Rinaldi at outsides, and Bruno and Sapochkov on the right, on like the usual suspects otherwise. But then when Sapochkov wasn't good, I mean, he actually wasn't even that bad, 10 for 16. They brought in Vlad Daviskiba at opposite. I don't know why they're doing that. Why aren't you letting Vlad Daviskiba play his position? He's a very good outside hitter. Very good one.
He's a good passer. Like, his hitting in this one was incredible. 10 for 15. I mean, he was terminal regardless, right? He only had one continue on the afternoon. He was 10 for 15, got blocked twice, made 2 errors. So he was terminal regardless. But there is a lot of question marks, and I mean, it just shows how I don't know if that coaching change for Modena last year was a good idea. Like, nothing has seemed to have worked so far for them, and this is a team that is struggling.
Well, also, I didn't know this. Thanks, Matt98 in the chat. Filippo Federici, their new libero, needs surgery, and that was a big upgrade over Salvatore Rossini that they brought in this offseason, and now they have to put a Band-Aid on that with this Riccardo Golini kid, who I know nothing about. But so that's a big loss. Maybe Sapochkov got hurt. I didn't know that. Yeah, okay. So Berkai's saying that Sapochkov is hurt. That makes a lot more sense. And Giulio Pinali is still hurt, and that would be an instant tank job, which would be punishable by relegation if you started Giulio Pinali at opposite. I would just refuse to watch those games.
Oh, come on. Modena with Pinali is better than Toronto.
No chance.
Yeah.
No.
100%.
No.
100%.
If any team in the Superliga starts Giulio Pinali at opposite, they deserve to be relegated.
Didn't Padova start him last year?
No.
And they didn't get relegated?
So Padova started our good friend Dusan Petkovic all season last year. Good times. Good times. So yeah, I guess
I miss Petkovic. I miss you asking, Everett, who do you think this stat line is for?
Yeah, I miss a good Dusan Petkovic stat line. Those were always fun to see.
Also because, like, Petkovic is kind of a bro. Like, I slammed some, like, this is like going back to Nations League, maybe 2019. This would have been pre-pandemic. We all went to the bar after Nations League, and Serbia is there, and this is when he had just been signed for Skra. And I was like, Petkovic, I like your game, blah blah blah. They had just beat Canada that day, so he bought me a beer, and he's like, I'm going to Skra this year, so we cheers for that, and then chugged a beer together. It's too bad he can't put the ball in the court.
That's awesome. I love that story. Last but not least, speaking of opposites on Padova, Everett, I am very pleased. Then I'm not going to claim that I watched Padova beating Cisterna in 5, but this may have been the best match of Gabby Garcia Fernandez's career. 27 points, 24 for 38 attacking, 553 efficiency, and 3 aces. Thank goodness he produced a match like that.
One match.
Yeah.
One match. So we know it's possible.
Of course it's
possible. We know it's possible against one of the lesser teams in the Superliga. Am I saying that he's going to be the savior for Team USA moving forward? Hell no. Let's give this man some time. He's also produced some stinkers this this year. So I think there's a lot of question marks on some young opposites in this league right now. When you look at Shaposhkov, you look at Schwartz, you look at who are we talking about now? GGF. Hell, even if you add in Kyle Russell, like there's well, he's not young anymore. He's not a young man anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah. How old is Kyle Russell?
I don't know. No, he's probably 26, 27. Might be a year or two younger than me. I don't know. We'll look that up later. I mean, Teo Fora of Cisterna, he's a new young opposite in the Super League.
Another one, exactly.
Yeah, Gabi, great match. I'm happy to see this. I'm rooting for him to have a great season. I mean, I would like to see him do it again against a much better block defense team, because Cisterna is not that good, although they blocked 12 balls in this 5-setter. Another thing to keep an eye on, kind of like we talked about in our Super League preview, Everett, that we did with Tommy Blizzard. How soon are we going to see young man Luca Porro at outside hitter for Padova, Paolo's little brother? And this was the first sighting that we had of Porro at outside hitter. He came in for Matisse Desmet in the third set, was okay. 3 for 7 attacking, actually passed the ball very well and got an ace. So, however, then Desmet came back in to start the 5th set. So if you're gonna look at Padova's stat sheets and not watch their games, which is exactly what I'm doing, the two things that I'm curious about are Gabi Garcia Fernandez's stats and how much is Luca Porro playing at outside hitter for him. Also, got to give Davide Gardini credit. He's had 2 really good games in a row, keeping his spot on court. So that's good for him.
By the way, Kyle Russell, 30 years old. He's a 93.
Woo. Okay, I didn't know that.
So he is. That's what I was saying. Like, he is not at all a young man. He's with that mustache alone should tell you that he's an old man out here.
Matt 98, you clearly are not familiar with the American university system. We have so few men's NCAA programs that we can't even rank a top 25. There are not very many NCAA men's volleyball programs. There are not very many opposites coming through the men's NCAA system, and even less of those opposites are American. So we don't have that much of a talent pool to pull from. You guys got to understand what we're dealing with like the American pipeline is thin. The diameter of that pipe is not very much. It is very small.
No. The fact that you guys have, and then, hey, First Point is doing a great job at getting men's volleyball integrated into
2 new NCAA men's programs this week. Great news. Northern Kentucky and Maryland Eastern Shore. Very, very good news.
Of that, but realistically, there is more post-secondary institutions per capita in Canada that support men's volleyball than the United States.
Much more,
right? Like much more. So it's actually crazy. It's weird that people think that there's this idea, like on the women's side, you have so many.
Yeah,
and I mean, hey, numbers on the women's side have been huge to the NCAA, right? Like better than football in the Big Ten, which is crazy. But men's indoor, not the same at all.
No, not at all. So that's it for the men's Superliga, right? Did we miss anything? I think that's a pretty good recap.
No, I think that's pretty much it. It was kind of a quiet week, not really any big matchups, but some teams still making some big moves. I like it.
Yeah.
So do you want to jump over to the women now?
Let's do it.
Yeah, over El Femenino. Once again, for me, there was one big matchup this week. We talked about it a little bit last week. Novara was one of the undefeated teams heading into this one, and it just showed that their record was very much due to strength of schedule.
Agreed. So that was Novara's first big test, which is why last week you asked me, and I still would put Novara 4th in the Lega Volley Femminile at best, because I don't see them beating Monza, Scandici, or Corneliano. And sure enough, they lose this one 3-1. The glaring stat lines that pop out to me: Vita Akimova at opposite for Novara, 18 for 56 with 17 errors. 17 errors, 8 unforced, blocked 9 times. How do you even get blocked 9 times in a 4-set match? That's honestly kind of incredible.
How do you get blocked 9 times in a 4-set match and then you kept on
and not get the yank? Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. But also like they just kept on the ball. 56 attempts, almost like 33% of the attempts, and she's making that many errors. It's just bad coaching all around there from Novara.
Hey, Everett, remind me, who is Novara's head coach?
Oh, Mazzanti. No, wait.
No, that would be
Barbolini.
No, that would be none other than Lorenzo Bernardi, our very good friend, who
shoot, I forgot it was Bernardi.
Firing we have called for decades, and now he's on the women's side, ruining a good Novara team with his stoogery. Also, Caterina Bossetti got aced 8 times. Honestly, it's a miracle that Novara won a set. You watched this game, right? What were your takes on this?
It was really like the only reason that they won a set is because they limited their errors in the second set, and Malonza made more errors. Like, that's really the only reason. Like, Bossetti got aced 4 times in the first set alone, so the first set was just like a cakewalk for Malonza. Novara pushed back a little bit in the second. Ogona was making some errors, and I think they made like 6 errors in total, 4 hitting, 2 on from serve. But then after that, like, Malonza just turned things on, and it wasn't even close. I actually fell asleep towards the end of this match.
30 from Paula Egonu, 28 for 51. Very high efficiency, 451 efficiency, plus 2 blocks. So that was probably her best statistical match of the year, if I had to guess, because Malonza's in a good spot, man. They've got a lot of options. They've started their Champions League campaign, and they've been able to keep Egonu on the bench because they're so much more talented than these other miserable teams they're playing in a couple different spots. Good to see Brenda Castillo. She is in Italy. She is the starting libero on Malonza. She is one of the best, probably the best libero on the planet. She looked great. They're every team is doing everything they can not to serve her for good reason, and instead they're serving Miriam Silla 42 times and acing her 7 times, and she doesn't get benched. What are we doing? And she's not attacking that well either. Oh, I mean, 9 for 20 with 1 error is fine, but like, getting aced 7 times, come on, man.
It's crazy to me when I look recently, just like the efficiency of outside hitters in the women's game in general.
Dude, it's bad.
Like, it is bad. I mean, like, when you look at Silla's numbers here, they're not that bad, because if you look down at Nika Dalderop was way worse at 5 for 23
with 3 errors. Right? Like, what?
Yeah, she got blocked. She got blocked 3 times. So
what is the deal?
You bring in Helen Kazao too, and she got blocked 3 times, and like a set in a little bit because she got subbed in the second and third as well. So there's just so many question marks on the outside hitters right now.
I think in this is on a world scale question. Gabi is the best outside hitter in the world. I think that Irina Fedorovtseva is comfortably the second best outside hitter in the world. And I would say that Li Yingying, who plays in the Chinese league, so we don't think about her in a club season, is the third best outside hitter in the world. Past that, what outside hitters in the world do we have that can score and also pass? I guess Alexa Gray is much higher on the list than I thought. Like, there aren't very many players that can do both. So the women's global outside hitter position is, I wouldn't say it's in a very good spot right now.
It's weird, eh? It's just very weird how you look around the world, and that issue is consistently the same for
everywhere. It's everywhere, which makes me appreciate Gabi even more, because she might be the best receiver in the world, even including liberos, and also is a ridiculously great scorer from 3 different spots on the court. So like, I appreciate her more watching all these other outside hitters struggle to score points so much in the Superliga. It's crazy.
Yeah. Karakurt, yeah, national team. Okay,
Karakurt is playing opposite in Russia right now, Berkay. And Anna Kristina is hurt, but I am excited to get her back for Fenerbahce. Hopefully at some point she can be a legitimate starter all season. Plummer has improved her passing. I'm not convinced. I've seen her play too much for Team USA and not pass the ball well. There are rumors with Gabi potentially leaving Vakif Bank. We don't talk about transfer rumors on this show in the middle of the club season. I have a big pet peeve about that. We're not going to talk about those things. Anything else about the Lega Volley Femminile over the weekend? I didn't think there were any. There wasn't really much going on.
Big ups to Busto for getting a win over Casalmaggiore, but that's about it for me. To be honest, like, really just not enough happening. I need to spend some time watching the Lega Volley Femminile, like, properly, other than just like one or two matches. But there's just so many, like there's just, last year there was so much competition in teams that this year hasn't been so much.
Yeah, I'm just like, there aren't very many teams in the Lega Volley Femminile that really interest me outside of the top three. Like I'll certainly, whenever those top three, like Conegliano, MONZA, Scandicci, whenever they play each other, I'm gonna watch those games because that's good volleyball. But like, it feels like there's just a massive talent disparity, and even like in the middle of the pack, the quality of volleyball just isn't. I'm not saying the quality isn't good, but it's not that interesting to me for some reason.
Yeah, maybe we just need to dive into it a little bit more. But
I think we do. Here's the standings in case anybody's curious. Conegliano back on top of the league where they belong. Are they the only undefeated team left? Yes, they are. Yeah, and Novara tied with them in points, but Conegliano's got a match in hand. Let's see. Is there anything good coming up this week? No. None of the good teams are playing each other. This is probably going to be another snooze fest week. I mean, Conegliano, Bergamo, MONZA, Pinerolo, Novara, Vallafolia, and Scandicci, Cuneo. Like those are not good games on paper.
No, that's
not good games.
That is a pretty rough week. How about on the men's side? Mona versus Padova, Lube versus Catania, Verona, Monza already happened. Piacenza versus Cisterna, Trentino versus Milano. That's really the only good game.
I wouldn't say there's
oh no, sorry, that's tomorrow.
Yeah, all these games are tomorrow. There's a midweek little midweek sesh for the Superlega. Modena versus Lube, Perugia, Piacenza. Those are on Sunday. Trentino versus Monza. That one I like.
Ooh, that's more
Trentino.
Like that's a big matchup for Monza, because to me, Trentino is the second best team in the league right now. And if Monza really wants to establish themselves, like taking down Trentino would be like, if their only loss in the first half of the season was to Perugia, that would really put them on the map.
Yeah,
really. Put them on the map.
Okay, so that is fun. We've got a day of Superliga games tomorrow, which is fun, and even if the matchups aren't very good, and then a normal weekend full of games. Speaking of things going on in the middle of the week, we're going to talk about Women's Champions League. But first, Everett, let the people know about that volleyball.store.
Absolutely. That volleyball.store is our home for everything volleyball stores. You get your 9x9 gear. You can't get out of system gear, though. You're going to have to head over to them for that. And if you use the code SPICE, you get 15% off. That we might throw down a little bit of a black market, Black Friday.
That volleyball.store basically is the black market. I mean, come on.
Yeah, for sure. So, Rob, actually, I have some designs to send you later to possibly go live. But yeah, head it over to that volleyball.store. Use the code SPICY for 15% off.
And of course, it's time to talk about our favorite segment. Where's Daddy? Where's Daddy Stankovic? Where was he? So last week, as I always do, I hide Daddy Stankovic somewhere on this show. And when you find him, you get to comment the timestamp of where you found him after the stream is over. And the first one to find Daddy gets a shout out. This was some of my finest work. This is a difficult one because I was looking through last week's assets, and there was just a lot of graphics of standings and stuff. And there weren't a lot of very good places to hide Daddy Stankovic. So I'm actually surprised I didn't think about this earlier. I hid him inside the Volleyball Source logo.
Did anyone get it?
Yeah, we had a couple people get it. We had Lifeless Vimo says Daddy hidden in the Volleyball Source logo. And John Lau says, holy cow, this took so long to find. Yeah, this is at the very beginning and at the very end of last week's episode only, like not during the main part of the show. So this is a hard one. But still we got two people that found Daddy Stankovic. So maybe this week he's a little easier, maybe not. I'm not going to tell you. But Daddy Stankovic is hidden somewhere this week. If you find him, wait till the live stream is over and comment the timestamp of where he is in the main YouTube comment section. Yeah, this was a good one. We might have to put this on a shirt. This logo right here with Daddy Stankovic's face. We might have to put this on a shirt.
You know what? You may you throw me out that asset. Like maybe let's clean it up a little bit so it's not as pixelated.
Oh yeah, I can very easily make a high res version of this.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Let's do it up.
I really like this one. Just Daddy poking out the Volleyball Source logo. A match made in heaven, Everett.
Match made in heaven. Daddy in the logo.
Daddy.
Love it.
Love him. Okay, let's skip over to the CEV Champions League. Oops, that is zoomed in a little bit too far. I will fix that. So the Champions League on the women's side got kicked off last week. As we predicted on this show, there was absolutely nothing interesting because, as is so typical for Champions League, the early couple weeks are the good teams playing the bad teams in each pool. Literally, of the 10 games last week, here they are. Of the 10 games last week, 8 3-dongs. 8 3-dongs. There's
pretty normal.
Yeah, a 3-1 with Alba Blaz from Romania beating LKS Łódź from Poland, which actually is kind of an upset. And then Rzeszów beating Stuttgart in 5. That was by far the best match last week. I was looking at some stats from this. Everett, I don't know of this player, Gabriela Orvosova, an opposite on Rzeszów. That's not a Polish name. I assume she might be Russian or somewhere else from Eastern Europe. I'm going to look her up right now. But she dropped 29 in a Champions League game. That's pretty good. And then Crystal Rivers on the Stuttgart side of the opposite dropped 24, but it wasn't quite enough. 15-12 Rzeszów in the 5th. So that was definitely the only good Women's Champions League match last week. And actually, there is Women's Champions League Week 2 starts literally right now. We've got Kamnik versus Budowlani Łódź right now. And again, there are no good matches on paper this week. It kind of sucks.
Orvosova is Czech.
Okay, thank you.
She's young. She's a 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
29 in a Champions League game.
Yeah. She played for them last year as well, too.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm impressed by that. But other than that, I have no takes on the Women's Champions League. Somebody in the chat says they could literally do Champions League with 6 teams. And I agree.
We've talked about this, Rob.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. There's so many better ways to do it. Once again, this is just volleyball being like, well, this is what soccer does. We just do what soccer does. We right? They do this, we do that. I buy you cookie, you get me cookie. It was just like it's just stupid. We know, like let's group them. Like a group of 6 at the top, and then the group, like all the way down. Get rid of Champions League, CEV Cup, Challenge Cup. Just make it one big competition, and you can move up and down, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, at the end it's just gonna be all the Italian teams and all Turkish.
That's because they're the best.
Anyways.
Yeah,
it is what it is, anyways. I would much rather watch just the Italian teams and the Turkish teams play each other. You know what? Let's just screw Champions League. Italian leagues and Turkish leagues. Let's take your top 4 and just face off all year. That's what I want to see.
I think it's a waste of money to play all these terrible 3-dong
100%.
games. Like, we're going to ask all these clubs from like lesser leagues, from less financed volleyball countries, and ask them to travel 3 times across Europe just to get 3-dong by better teams, all Champions League 4th round. Like it's not only is it a bad product, but it's wasteful.
Yeah.
It's more glaring, I think, on the women's side. Like there are just never any, there are not even any upsets in these pool play games, like very, very rarely. And then you, like you said, it ends up just being the Italian teams versus the Turkish teams at the end of in the playoffs anyway. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's like honestly, like 65% of the Champions League sucks. Like, in terms of watching it, like 65% of it is not fun to watch.
On the women's side, it's 4 out of the 6 rounds of the pool play games are terrible.
Yeah,
it's just straight 3-dongs weeks 1 and 2, and then finally week 3, whenever that is. Well, let me actually look. When's week 3? Is it next week, or do we have to wait a little bit? It's 2 weeks from now. So finally we get some good games that week. Like, we get Vakif Bank versus MONZA. That's awesome. Rzeszów versus Corneliano. That's like competitive. Skandici versus Jajabasha. That's awesome. Like, that only happens later, and we have to waste so much time spending money to produce bad volleyball until we get those games. Like, I just don't like the format. Now, Berkay is right. The on the men's side, the Champions League pools are setting up to be at least more competitive, and you do have to keep the format the same for the men and the women. But there is work to be done to improve this format. And on the subject, by the way, of men's Champions League, Everett, we are excited to announce that we have a full men's Champions League dedicated preview show coming this Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, with a very special guest. And if you're familiar with the channel, you might be able to guess who that special guest is. But you're going to want to tune in as this Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, we're going to break down all the pools of Men's Champions League, because I agree with you. I agree with Bear Kai. That will be a more competitive tournament in pool play than the women's. It just is.
Way more. The women's will be super excited once we get to the end.
Right.
Like once you start getting into the playoffs, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, all that, so stoked to watch all of that.
Yeah.
Like so excited to watch all of that. But until then, just doesn't.
Nope. So I have nothing else about Women's Champions League. Definitely tune into our Men's Champions League preview in 2 days, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. That's going to be awesome. You want to talk about the Plusliga?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about the Plusliga.
Let's talk about the Plusliga.
Is that even? There's even a game going on right now in the Plusliga.
Of course there is.
Zaksa beat Katowice 28-26 in the first.
We've got a lot to talk about this Zaksa team. We've got a lot to talk about Zaksa. They are in a very interesting period in their team right now. But first, I want to talk about the 2 matches that we really hyped up on last week's show. The first one was Jastrzębski versus Resovia last Wednesday. And then there was Resovia 3-donging Zaksa's C team over the weekend, which wasn't as competitive as I wanted it to be. But good for Jastrzębski. Our question mark about them after the Polish Super Cup, that choke up 2-0, was their second outside hitter. And Rafał Szymura keeps Marco Sedlacek on the bench where he belongs. Rafał Szymura, 23 points, 16 for 29 attacking, 41% efficiency, 3 blocks, and 4 aces. If you can play like that, Jastrzębski Węgiel is going to be just fine. That was a big performance. Big performance.
Big performance. I really did like it as well. And more, I think you should run with Szymura over Sedlacek. Isn't that what they had last year? Didn't they have Szymura starting last year?
No, I mean a couple times when Kleveno couldn't play, but Szymura is the best third outside hitter you could ask for on any team, because he comes in, he doesn't make errors, he passes the ball well. But every so often, he'll pop off on offense. And regardless, I think he gives you more, both a higher ceiling and higher floor than Marco Sedlacek. So we'll see if Jastrzębski sticks with him. And maybe they try and go out and get someone and in the like mid-season transfer window. But if Szymura starts, you've also got an additional foreigner spot that you can play with, which might be good for him. But this is a little bit disappointing for me for Resovia, especially Stefan Boyer against his former team. 20 points, 17 for 35, 9 errors, got blocked 6 times. Definitely not what I was looking for. 24% efficiency as a team for Resovia. Who do you put that blame on, Everett?
Oh, DeFalco for sure.
No.
No, obviously not. Obviously, Druzga. You're like, that's, if you know the show at all, you know who our scapegoat is. We have a few scapegoats on the show, and Druzga is the top of the list. Yeah, I mean, like, this to me is Resovia in a nutshell. Just I would love, I can't wait until TJ's maybe done playing at Resovia. Maybe we can chat with him and figure out how the dynamic of that team is.
I would really like to hear that.
Watching these games, there is very much you could tell who wants to win and who's just happy to be there, who just likes to play volleyball, and DeFalco is definitely not in that just happy to be there, happy to play volleyball type of area.
No, TJ is very competitive.
Yes.
And he had a great game. I mean, 11 for 20, 3 aces, 2 blocks. I personally think he's the best left side blocker in the world. I don't know if that's a crazy hot take, but I definitely believe that. Yassine Luati started it outside and was horrible. 3 for 10 with 5 errors. So Clement Chable came in and was fine, but it wasn't enough to rescue it. So I was wrong, Everett. Last week I picked Resovia to go 2-0 in these big matches that they had, and they were not able to come up in this one. But then over the weekend we had a bunch of games. Resovia beat Zaksa 3-0. Zaksa actually was more competitive than they should have been, given the lineup that they played. This Zaksa team, this might be the most injured team in all of volleyball right now. It's rough. It's rough.
I would tend to agree. It's rough for them, and it's rough watching them. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not fun to watch. But it's Zaksa, and there to me, like there's no team that's higher. Like there's no team in professional volleyball that sits higher right now. Like they're the 3-time defending Champions League champions, right? If there's one team that can just, you know what, we're gonna wait a little bit. We're gonna rest our players. A lot of our guys got a lot of minutes this summer, and we're really gonna push towards the second half of the season. I don't think Zoxa is scared of any team in the Plusliga. I don't think they're trying to avoid any team in the Plusliga. So for them, losing some teams or some matches early on the season doesn't really matter much.
But listen to this lineup that they played. Łukasz Kaczmarek and Alexander Śliwka at outside hitter. So they moved Kaczmarek to the left side, but then they were doing all sorts of crazy scrambling about like where people were playing defense, because they put Andreas Takvam, who's a middle, they put him on the right side. And they did all sorts of weird craziness. Like they would have Kaczmarek like sometimes defend in position 1 and hit D balls, and Takvam play in position 5, and they had Pashitsky and Twan Wiltenberg in the middle. No David Smith. They had to sign an emergency setter this week, this Radosław Gil guy, because Janusz and Stempian are both hurt. They just signed like a random setter like off the street to set in a Plusliga game for him. Like Zoxa is in shambles right now, and so it's different from last year, where last year their big weakness was outside hitter because they picked up Bartosz Bednarz halfway through the year. They are going to struggle if they don't get healthy and if they don't do it soon, because they can't like phone it in against even like mid-tier Plusliga teams like they're playing right now. They're playing Katowice. They have a little bit more of their normal starting lineup this time. It's so it's Bednarz and Śliwka. It's Kaczmarek at opposite. It's Takvam and Smith in the middle, but it's this Radosław Gil guy setting. It's their third setter. And they barely beat a pretty uninspiring Katowice team in that first set. So, like, keep an eye on Zoxa's health and where they're at in the standings, because I agree they shouldn't be worried, but there's only so far that they can afford to slip down while they try and get guys healthy.
Yeah, but there's so many matches this year. There's so many more matches this year, and we also saw it for them last year, where they were like a middle of the pack team throughout the first half of the year, and then they pushed it up to the end. So, I'm really not worried about Zoxa. Like, this is just. They're just putting the best product that they have out there, and there's so many answers to you know what, like rest your guys in the first half. I'll rest them until 2025 or 2024. I don't care. No, obviously not 2025. Don't just throw this season in the. But yeah, just rest them until 2024, and then you'll be good in the new year, because like the Polish schedule might be the worst of anyone once you.
It's bad.
Travel and once
and Champions League
and Champions League and all of that. So.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. The other match I wanted to talk about in the Plusliga was Zawiercie. Now, Zawiercie 3-donging Charny Radom is not a surprise, because Radom is terrible. And I got a message earlier today that Charny Radom has now lost 25 consecutive home games, which is really bad.
How did they not get relegated last year if they're missing?
It was a miracle. It was an absolute miracle that Bielska Biała was worse than them. Our boy Nikola Melianats was pretty good in this game, 41% efficiency. But the reason why I bring this match up is because it is the first time that we see Zawiercie's full starting lineup. Finally, we see Kvolek and Kleveno. We see Biniak in the middle. We see Butrin on the right side. Tavares, obviously, at setter, and Luke Perry at libero. And they hit 50% efficiency as a team. Kvolek was unbelievable. Butrin was great. Biniak was great. Kleveno was great. Like they absolutely lit it up with finally their starting lineup. So there is a reason why I picked Zawiercie to win the Plusliga. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, this one, hey, they played really good against one of the worst teams.
Terrible team.
I look at this and I see Brody Hofer's stat line, and that kind of hurts me a little bit. 5 for 17. Really not good with 3 errors, and he got blocked. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses. But at the same time, like, this Zawiercie team is very, very good. Do I think they're going to win? No. I think they're very, very good, though.
I do.
I think they're gonna be up there. Like there's a clear top 4 and maybe even top 5 if you want to put Warszawa in there as well in the Plusliga, and I like that.
Yeah, Warszawa is good. They 3-donged Kuprum Lubin, no problem. No surprise there. So yeah, that's it. That's it for the Plusliga for now. Let's see, what do we got coming up this week? Oh, we get to see Shemsky versus Radom. Ouch. That's gonna be an hour in a shower. Stalnissa versus Varsovia is an okay game. Zavierce versus Barkom Lviv is an okay game. Skra versus Gdansk is an okay game. So
Radom doesn't get anything easier there with JW either.
Poor Radom. I would like to see Brody Hofer play a little bit better.
Olsztyn this weekend against Varsovia. That should be maybe all right.
I like that.
Man, Radom from they get Zavierci, JW, and Zaksa all in a row.
Woof. That's a gauntlet. Do they have a win yet?
I don't think so.
No, they are 0-5. So is Katowice. The only two 0-5 teams.
Okay.
Ouch. Relegation race. All right. Anything else about Poland?
No. Let's move on. Let's continue on to Poland and start talking about a few of the other things. Let's jump over to Turkey first. Big one. Hog getting a couple of wins this week. First one against Arcus. Arcus is really struggling. This is a team that I don't know what is going on with them.
Well, Arcus, unfortunately, they lost one of their most important players in Mirza Lagumzia, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring this particular matchup and Halkbank beating Arcus head to head, because this was the first match for Arcus after Mirza Lagumzia left, but he did not play for Halkbank in this game. Halkbank still able to win 3-1, pretty much no problem. But then Halkbank's next game against some team called Develi, who I know nothing about. They won 3-1, and that was Mirza Lagumzia's Halkbank debut. 17 points, 13 for 21 attacking, 2 blocks and 2 aces. So, and actually it was him and Gord Perrin at outside that game. They gave Irvin Ingapet the game off. So he looked good in that one, and that I think instantly makes Halkbank the number one contender to win the FLA League and to be a real player in both Champions League and the Club World Championship. Now they'll be able to play Perrin and Ingapet in those tournaments. But that's why I brought these games up, is because Lagumzia did not play against his former team in the match on screen there.
But he did get in when they played against the Philly on Sunday, and he had a bit of a match.
Yeah,
he was pretty good. Halkbank is really going for it this year, and I like that.
I like it too. I like that they're sick of losing to Zerodbank, because as they should be, because they lost to him in the playoffs. They've already lost to him twice this season. They should be sick of losing to Zerot. So.
This might be. I've seen a few clips of them. This might be the most fun team in volleyball.
Who? Halkbank or Zerot? Halkbank's fun.
When you look at their I've just seen them of stuff of them at practice. When you think about Ma'a and Irvin and Namir and Gord Perrin, that this team is just a bunch of boys. For sure. This is one of the funnest teams in volleyball, without a doubt.
That team's fun, and again, they're playing the Club World Championship and Champions League, and Zerot Bank as well. They're playing Champions League. They're in Zaksa's group. They're gonna be a threat there, and we'll talk about Champions League with our special guest on Thursday. I didn't see that much in the Sultanar League that I was that interested in. I mean, no. I didn't beat Galatasaray in 5. THY beat Nilufer in 4. Jajabasha 3 dung Besiktas. I personally didn't see any storylines out of the women's league this week anyway.
No. Berkay, let us know if we're wrong there.
Well, Berkay always thinks that we're wrong. Berkay always thinks that every single point of every Turkish league needs to be analyzed in great depth, and that's just not what we're going to do. It's not how we're going to spend our time.
As he's bombarding the chat right now with info about Mirza Lagumzia and Halkbank.
Okay, so that makes sense why Lagumzia didn't play against Arcus, because it was a postponed match. But yeah, I mean that we talked about it last week when it happened. That instantly made Halkbank probably the best team on paper in the FLA League. I'm looking at the Sultanar League schedule for this weekend, and I'm not seeing much. Fenerbahce versus Nilufer is okay. Adzadjabasha versus Galatasaray is okay.
I do think the one team that we need to maybe watch a little bit more in the Sultanar League is Murat Pasa.
Yeah.
That's the one team. They took a set off of Fenerbahce this week. So yeah, I think Markova is
yeah, I got to watch this Markova girl. People are talking about her being a big scoring threat at outside hitter, and I got to see it. I got to look at that. Okay. I wanted to spend, because it was a tiny bit lighter of a week. We've still got a pretty long show, but I wanted to at least point out a couple of the other European leagues that we don't always talk about. But I think we should at least like put them on people's radars. And the first is the Bundesliga, because the Bundesliga is good. And the Bundesliga has 2 teams playing Champions League, and there's a bunch of North Americans playing there, same as France, who we'll talk about in a second. But I think it's worth at least like pointing out the Bundesliga. Berlin is obviously the best team in the league. That's no surprise.
Close.
But I was interested that the Bundesliga expanded this year. There's 12 teams now. There's a bunch of new teams, like a bunch of new teams that moved up that I do not recognize.
It's good. It's interesting, especially like they've been talking in the Discord about how like there's some like the level of professionalism on some of these teams is varying. Let's say, is very much varying. So it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out. I do like the fact that they have 12, but let's not like this is still a 4-team league at best. Maybe 5 if Gießen can figure it out. The way I look at it, there's Berlin, obviously. Durban is obviously always there. Lüneburg, Friedrichshafen, and Gießen. Though those to me are the 5 teams that are really going. Hersching maybe on the outside. Netzhopper's down there at 0-4 is crazy to me.
Netzhopper's so I was looking at some of these rosters yesterday and prepping for this show, because there's like 5 teams that I have never heard of before. Like they are really going with the quantity over quality approach in terms of the participating teams this year. And I get that you're going to play more games. Hopefully that means more money for the league. But like some of these teams are just not good. Like just like 0 foreigners, 0 national team talent on the German national team. Like there's some pretty rough rosters. And Netzhoppers, who's like traditionally a good team, they look terrible on paper. They're 0-12 in sets so far to start the year. That's rough.
Yikes. Might have to get some of our German people in the Discord to kind of explain to us what's been going on there. But we did have our first big matchup of the year this year with Lüneburg. Well, like Lüneburg and Friedrichshafen. It was a bad week for Friedrichshafen. They went 0-2 this week. That win for Lüneburg is absolutely massive, though.
19-17 in the 5th at home. Like one of the great, like low key, one of the best home crowds in volleyball. Like we saw them. Remember last year when they played Modena in CEV Cup? Like how insane that atmosphere was. And now they're gonna play 3 home games in Champions League coming up in the next few weeks. What was it, like 33-31 in the 3rd, 19-17 in the 5th? Like this match was sick. I saw some clips. Unfortunately, like Langdon is saying in the chat, the broadcast for the German league is awesome, as we talked about last year. Like the Spontent crew on Twitch is probably the best in all of volleyball. The problem is a lot of it is paywalled this year. They only do one free match a week, and the rest of them you have to pay a subscription to watch, which is, I mean, disappointing. Selfishly, I understand you got to make some money in volleyball. I understand that more than anyone, but it's a little more difficult to watch this year. But when you do have those free broadcasts, you've got to watch them. They're phenomenally well produced.
100%. I was very happy for this win for Lüneburg, because they just bounced back from a terrible 3-dong against Hersching.
Yeah, that was bad.
That should not happen. But man, like Friedrichshafen has traditionally been one of the best teams in Germany. They are a staple in the Champions League. Now this year, this was a bad week for them, suffering 2 losses. First this 5-setter, then a 3-dong to Berlin on Friday night. This is a team that is not playing in Champions League this year.
Right, because they built a new arena and
it doesn't meet the standards.
Right, they were going to have to pay a ridiculous amount of money to find a home to play Champions League games, and they weren't willing to do that. So it will be interesting to not have Friedrichshafen in Champions League. I can't remember the last time that was ever the case.
Yeah. So I really hope that they can figure this out and that we don't see the death, because I feel like the German league, we've seen the death of some really, really good programs over the past like decade or so. And as good as the German league is, I do feel like it's sometimes just holding on by a thread.
As far as relevance in Europe, definitely. Berlin is the only team that's ever remotely competitive in Champions League. Like Friedrichshafen made the playoffs last year under the new format and got stomped in the first round. And we'll talk about Berlin and Lüneburg are the two German teams playing Champions League this year. We'll talk about them in our preview on Thursday. But it's nice for us, Everett, North Americans, because the Bundesliga and then the French league, which we'll talk about in a second, are very popular places for North Americans to go because they have either none or very, very loose foreigner limits. So like Lüneburg, for example, they have 4 Americans and 3 Canadians, and basically all of them start. So like you get to see just a ton of familiar faces if you're from our part of the world that go to these leagues and play, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Lüneburg has always been known as little North America, right? It's been a go-to location for a lot of Canadians and American over this year. Is no exception. We got Blake Leeson, Matt Nagy, Matt Slavinsky, Gage Worsley's still there, and then on the Canadian side, Max Elgert, Xander Kretizinski, and Jesse Elser.
And like all those guys are playing. Like all those guys are playing a lot. So also that's awesome.
Also, big shout out to blah 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 blah. What's his face? Jackson Young, as you have here the stats. Nipissing boy coming in for 10 points off the bench
for Friedrichshafen, right? Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, no Champions League for Friedrichshafen. We'll talk about Lüneburg and Berlin a little bit more on Thursday. Let's also point out the LNV, the French league, or as it has been, or as the men's top league has been rebranded, the Marmara Spike League. The Marmara Spike League is the new identity of the #1 division in France. The French league is also really good. It also has a lot of North Americans. Like United States players, especially. There's a ton of them this year. And Everett, the one thing that I'm always fascinated by in the LNV is the curse of the defending champion. What?
Yep.
How do you explain the team that wins the French league the following year stinks every time? Like Tours won the league last year. They are 1-4 to start the season. I don't understand how this always happens in this league.
I really don't understand either. I really don't. And especially with Tools, because Tools is like one of like every year it seems like the French league kind of like shifts around. There's different teams at the top. You know, we've seen like Cons won the league and now they're not even in it anymore. But Tools is always kind of up there. So for them to start the year at 1-4 is like this is a Champions League team. Like this is a team that competes year in and year out and is known as like one of the best clubs in France. And when you look at their roster too, like it's a decent roster. So I really like, you've got a whole bunch of national team guys from different places, but yeah, I'm not understanding what's really going on with Tools at the moment. However,
it's a curse.
On the other side of things, you do have Tourcoing sitting at 5-0. My man Riley Barnes, the Barn Cat, leading the way for them. However, there is a question of the quality of their schedule. When you look at who they've been playing, it's mostly teams who are below them. I think the highest team that they've played so far and they've beat was Plessis Robinson in 7th. This week they play Paris, who are in 6th, so that's going to be a little bit better. But Tourcoing it was very similar to the way they started last year. And I mean, last year they had Jay Banks and Burkle and Barncat has stayed. And I'm pretty sure he's the captain, and he's been absolutely balling this year.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'm trying to pull up like all the rosters of the French league in one place. I'm working on that, but yeah, there's a bunch of Canadians, a bunch of Americans. Danny Demyanenko is on Montpellier, right?
He's on, and he's been there for a number of years now. Like he is a guy. Is it Poitiers? Yeah, I think Poitiers has Brett Walsh and Matthias Elser.
Yep, that sounds right. Saint-Nazaire has Quinn Isaacson, Kyle Ensing, Jordan Ewert.
And also
Paris has Colton Cowell.
There's one other guy for Saint-Nazaire, the Canadian guy. Why am I with the middle blocker? Schnitzer. Schnitzer's playing for.
Oh, he's there.
Sweet. Yeah, Schnitzer is at Saint-Nazaire as well.
But if you are American and if you notice my out of system shirt, there's one other team that we have to talk about as far as French teams go, and that's Chaumont, who just 3-dong toured in a big regular season game that was revenge for a loss in the Super Cup final 3 American middles, Mike Marshman, Dan McDonald, Pat Gassman, and then Joe Worsley setting. And this Chaumont team is good. I'm disappointed that France only has 1 team in Champions League. It's only Tours, and I'm disappointed by that. I wish they had at least 1 more. I think they could put easily at least 1 more competitive team in Champions League. But Chaumont is good. They're 4-1. They're tied with Montpellier in the win-loss column. And honestly, top to bottom, the French league, the Marmara Spike League, as it is now known, this might be the most competitive league top to bottom in all of Europe. Like straight up.
Marmara Spike League. That's just silly. That's just
whatever. If whatever Marmara is, if we have any French people that know like what brand, like what company is Marmara, if they're willing to put money into volleyball, great. I don't care how weird the name is. Yeah, but like
no idea.
Seriously,
I have no idea what Marmara is.
The French league might be the most competitive league top to bottom. Like through, they've got 14 teams in the league. Like here's the standings again. 1 through like 9 or 10 are going to be good teams, and it's still early.
So it looks like Marmara is a like club resort type of place. Like I think it's like kind of like a Club Med type of resort place. Vacances en Club Marmara. That's what I'm seeing when I'm googling things here. So yeah, it's like basically Club Med France.
Okay, well I guess they like volleyball.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Right. The Marmara Spike League. All right, great. So I think that's it. I think that's it for everything in our notes that we wanted to cover. Anything else, Mr. Delorme, or can we get the people out of here?
No, let's get the people out of here. Everything I wanted to add to the notes you had already added. So yeah, no, I think that's about it. We've got a big day of Superliga going on tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. Of course, there's Champions League going on, so don't miss that. Next Thursday, as you said, no, not next Thursday. Thursday in 2 days, we're going to be previewing Champions League with a special guest. And I've also got some episodes of the Volleyball Source podcast that are being scheduled and coming up. There's been a certain person that people have been asking for, on based off of some interactions off of social media, and we're planning some things. And so yeah, let's lots of content coming at you guys in the next little bit.
Good. We've got a fun video coming out tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we do have that coming out tomorrow.
We filmed the video when we were in West Virginia for NORCECA that we've been sitting on, and we're going to release it tomorrow. It's Everett and I drafting our 12-player volleyball teams using athletes from other sports. It's a very fun one. I can't wait to get people's reactions to some of the picks that we made. I actually kind of forgot about it, so I'm excited for that one to go public. So tune in for that tomorrow. Tune in Thursday for our Champions League preview. And then join the Volleyball Source Discord. Last thing we have to plug. The best online chat community for volleyball in the world. The link is in the description of the video. You definitely want to get in there and get in all the conversations we have about all the different leagues in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we got almost 2,000 people in the Discord server now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
We should have a similar number of people giving a thumbs up to this video. So before we're done, give a like to this video. We'll see you guys on Thursday Champions League preview, next Tuesday 9x9. Thanks for watching.
Peace.